national security concerns.
Fox's Jenny Casola, there's parts of the Northeast.
We got close to 8 inches of rain in Pennsylvania, 7 inches close in New Jersey, and the second wettest hour on record for New York. So we got over 2 inches of rain in less than an hour.
Fox meteorologist Janice Dean, the Supreme Court approves mass education department layoffs. America's listening to Fox News.
This report is sponsored by Progressive Insurance.
Hey, shalom, shalom. All right, first and foremost, if I get started, we give all honor and glory and power to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem, Wadash. Once a double honor to our elders, our great apostles, great millstone, GMS, who rule well and teach well, being an example to Israel. All right, man, the elect. I want to say peace and blessing to the hope the elect on the four corner, and the truth and sincerity. Right, the great song, I just radio station edification as I continue to bring the importance, all right, return it back into the Lord and the Savior, who the word ignorant called Jesus Christ, his name in the Hebrew, all right, Yahweh Shah, man, all right, because what's coming down the pipeline, as you just heard, if you go back, Trump dealing with the artificial intelligence, right, but also he dealing with, all right, the MOTB, all right, and that's why I really cut it on.
It worked so good.
So I'm waiting on them because they're going to talk about it. All right. Let you know that everything is finna go digital, man. All right. So the things that we have been saying for so long, now you are starting to see it, come to pass. All right. Because the MOTB is spoken about in Revelation, the 13th chapter. All right. And that's going to be the new way. They're going to be the new system. That's why it's known as what? The New World Order. All right. But everything will be done digital. Everything will be done through technology. There ain't going to be no more cash. No more coins, all right? Only how you're going to be able to buy or sell or trade or do anything in this society, all right, is going to be through what? Through digital, all right? As you can see, online business became, online became a big thing. Now you can buy your food online. Now you can order your food from Kroger's, Walmart, anywhere online and get it shipped to you. You can order your clothes. You can order all sorts of things online, and it can be what? It can be brought to you. So technology had become an advanced part in this society. All right. So what you're gonna have is, and what we're seeing is, everything is heading towards a digital system, man. And it's very important because they're lining up with what? Revelation, the 13th chapter. As in John the Revelator, all right, these things were revealed unto him. He saw this. All right, and it's very important to understand that. So when these things come and they happen, you can be aware of it and you will not take it. All right, because that device is a lose-lose situation. And what I mean by that, if you take the device, all right, you're gonna lose, all right, because your life, all right, is in the power of Esau, and then you're gonna lose because you're gonna die when it's your turn return. All right, because it's a penalty for taking that device. When you go into Revelation the 14th chapter, all right, it's a penalty, consequences, actions, all right, for taking that device. So I want to see what they're gonna say.
So let's bring into the conversation.
Now, yeah, let's see what they're gonna say. Lord willing, y'all brothers to be edified.
Mr. Bill,
While I let it all down.
Senator Haggerty, how are you, sir?
Hey, good morning, Ditch. Tim, good to be with you all again.
Yeah, we appreciate you. I want to talk about the Genius Act in a minute, but something that our audience, those listening this morning, are very passionate about, the idea of assimilation in this country, and English being the official language of the United States of America. We all know that when you call somewhere, you have at least two choices: press 1 for English, 2 for Spanish. But you spent time in Japan, and as the ambassador, what were your experiences in Japan? Did you expect, as an ambassador? Of course, you weren't there as a citizen, but how easy was it for you when you went to Japan, as far as getting a driver's license and other ways of communicating?
Well, that you know Japan as well, and actually as ambassador, that was the second time I lived in Japan. The first time I was there as a business person. I was sent over there for 3 years by the company that I worked for, and I was the senior expatriate there. And this is back in the late 80s, early 90s. And as you will recall, there was almost no English in Japan. Tokyo, some of the more heavily trafficked areas, you might see some of it, but I had to learn basically survival Japanese almost immediately. Now, in fact, the Japanese did allow foreign expatriates to take driver's tests in certain foreign languages, English, of course, being one of them, because that's the language that most people know if they don't know Japanese. And were it not for that, I would not have been able to pass the driver's test. I used the Japanese language form both when I was there as a business person and also when I went back as ambassador. But overall, I think these countries expect assimilation if you want to come and be there. You need to, basically accommodate what exists in that country rather than expecting that country to bend over backwards and accommodate you. Something very bad here in the United States, where I think politically there are those, particularly in the Democrat Party, that see the atomization of America as a political gain. They can continue to divide us by our ethnicity, by our nationality, by our language, rather than allow us to assimilate. Then they can create all types of groups, people with special interests, and those special interests can be accommodated by special legislation, et cetera, et cetera. We need to bring that to an end. We need to really encourage the assimilation of everybody that's here in America, people that are here legally. And look, I want to see legal immigration work correctly. But as they come into this country, they need to learn English. They need to learn about our history. They need to learn civics. Frankly, I think I've seen this naturalization classes get sworn in. Many of those people who've been through the process correctly have better command of civics than a lot of our kids do right now in high school.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I know in the 80s when I was in Okayama, I had to study the language and pass a basic Japanese language test before I could even be considered to go there. And like you, it was really when I got there, it was survival Japanese. I could,
Yes.
I could introduce myself. I could ask some basic questions. I could tell you where I lived. Just some of the case I got stuck on a train somewhere, got lost. But it was part of assimilating to the culture that was there. And I had to pass tests about the culture and the language. And that was the expectation. Just as an exchange student.
Yes. It steps up, Ditch. I was in the same boat you were. Well, when I first arrived, survival Japanese help. The point, it got down to me dismissing everybody in a meeting with the Prime Minister. That's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, who sadly was assassinated. But being able to dismiss everybody and me using my Japanese, conveying some very important messages to the Prime Minister alone, that would have been, very, very sensitive to try to convey through a translator. So it's important at every level to be able to assimilate and deal in the environment where you're going to live, even if it's for just a few years. I mean, I knew I wasn't going to be in Japan for my lifetime, but I had a job assignment there, and later I had a diplomatic assignment, and I realized and respected the importance and the criticality of learning the language.
Hey, in that moment, how much pressure did you feel sitting in there with Prime Minister Abe? It's him, you, and Japanese language.
Yeah.
Well, the pressure I felt was very real, because had I not conveyed that message, I think we would not have the 2 trade deals that we were able to get negotiated with Japan. I conveyed that message that was very clear. I told the Prime Minister that if we couldn't move forward, again, they're dragging their feet right now in terms of getting a trade deal done with America, but if we could not move forward on the 2 trade deals that we wanted to see then, that I was going to be leaving Japan on the coming Saturday, and that when I came back, I probably wouldn't be the ambassador, because President Trump expected results. And by Saturday morning, the agreement that I needed was made, and we negotiated 2 of the most favorable trade deals that the U.S. Trade Representative's office has ever seen. That was between the United States and Japan. First time it had happened since World War II. So that type of resolve, backed up by the grit and the willingness to command the language, made a hell of a difference for America.
One of our callers mentioned earlier, Senator Haggerty, he's in the truck driving industry, about how it is to have guys who can't read English. How do they read traffic signs?
Yeah.
How do you know that?
Yeah, because English is the dominant language of the world. In order to fly a plane, you have to learn English. All right? English is the dominant language. Wherever you go, you got to be able to speak English. They let you know also who in power. All right, but let me get to the digital, because I thought they were going to start talking about the digital currency, as I was hearing on the radio station earlier.
And symbols for their signs.
So I guess that's a little later. So I typed in, will America become a digital currency, right? It says, while a digital dollar or central bank digital currency, and that's where you get CBDC from. It said it's being explored. The U.S. is not currently on a path to a fully digital currency system. It said that will replace cash or current form of payments in the near future, and that's what it's about in the near future, man. It's gonna become a digital society. It says the Federal Reserve is researching the potential implementation of the effect of CBDC, but has not made a decision to issue one. All right, read between the lines. Federal Reserve researching the potential, all right, implementing any effect of the CBDC, but has not made a decision to issue one. All right, because this system gonna have to crash in order for that digital system to be implemented. And this is what they're doing. This is the verge of what's happening now. All right, the dollar is losing its value. The dollar not once have the same value as it had back into so they're gonna make it a way that the dollar is gonna lose its value totally. They're gonna crash the system. All right, in order to be in this the new system, you're gonna have to take what? You're gonna have to take the MOTB, and the MOTB consists of a microchip. All right. So it says
where it might lead.
Let me see. Hold on. Now it says, will digital currency replace money? It said the transition from cash to digital currency depend on factors like adoption, regulation, and public trust. Benefits of digital currency include faster transaction, enhanced traceability, and a lower operational cost. However, challenges like privacy concern, the economic stability remains. It said, what happened if the U.S. goes digital, right? A digital dollar, it said it could threaten what remains an anonymous and privacy in commercial transaction. It says the end of cash is on the horizon. You see, the end of cash is on the horizon, and it will have far-reaching effect of the economy, finance, and society more broadly. That's right, because what? Prophecy. That's why prophecy. You go into Revelation, the 13th chapter, verse 16. It says, he calls it look like a grain of rice, but that's how small it is, a small little device. All right, they're gonna be put in you, whether it's in your left hand, your right hand, your arm, your forehead, because you got a lot of people, all right, make dumbass remarks. What if he ain't got no arms? You know, or what if he ain't got this? What if he ain't got that? All right, it's gonna be put in you one way or another. All right, because that's gonna be the only way that you're gonna be able to be sustainable in the society. How else you gonna be able to buy or sell, or how you gonna be able to eat or transfer money? How you gonna be able to work? All right, how you gonna be able to get paid from your job? You see, you're gonna have to take what? You're gonna have to take the MOTB. That's why the household of faith, we're gonna rely on Yahweh Shema Shah. All right, and I want to grab that precept too, because they're gonna be the time. All right. Hold on real quick. Damn. Yeah, this right here. Cause this line up with Isaiah 55. Now this Isaiah 10 and 20. It says, and it came, so like, and it shall come to pass in that day that the remnant of Israel and such as escape of the house of Jacob shall no more stay upon him that smote them, but shall stay upon the Lord Yahweh, the Holy One of Israel. And that's the time that we're going to come into our trust and everything that we lean on, our desires, our wants, our need, it's going to come from Yahweh Shema Shai. All right? It's going to come from the Lord. All right? Because we understand if we take the device, it's over with. All right? It's over with. So we're going to trust in Yahweh Shema Shai because what the Lord said. This is Isaiah 55. Hold on, it's like might be. Yeah, this is Isaiah 65 and 13. It said, therefore said the Lord, Yahweh Shema Shai, behold, my servant shall eat. My servant shall what? It's like it. Therefore, thus said the Lord, Yahweh Shema Shai power, behold, my servant shall eat, but ye shall be hungry. Behold, my servant shall drink, but ye shall be thirsty. Behold, my servant shall rejoice, but ye shall be ashamed. You see that? So the servants of the Lord, the believers, the household of faith, all right, we ain't us, all right, not taking the corral, the Lord gonna make a way. The Lord gonna find a way. The Lord gonna have a way for us to continue to eat, drink, and be in a sound mind. All right, while 2/3 out here loose as a goose. All right, and don't know what the hell to do. But the Lord gonna keep us in a sound mind. That's why I go right back to Isaiah 10 and 20. And it shall come to pass in that day that the remnant of Israel and such as escape of the house of Jacob shall no more again stay upon him that smote them. And that's talking about the elites, the government, all right, depending on their societies. All right, getting paid for your job or, you know, Social Security. You got Section 8, all this. We ain't gonna stay on that. We ain't gonna trust in this society. We ain't gonna trust in Babylon the Great. Woe to them that go down to Egypt for help. But what we gonna do? But shall stay upon the Lord Yahweh, the Holy One of Israel, in truth, according to what? Knowledge and the wisdom and understanding the Lord of his word. All right, so while they making this system the way it is, we're going to get closer to Yahweh Shema Shai. We're going to depend on the Lord to feed us. We're going to depend on Yahweh Shema Shai to bring us comfort. All right? Because time is coming, and we go right back to Revelation 13 and 17. It says, and that no man may buy or sell, say he that have the mark. So if you don't apply to this system, how you going to eat? If you don't apply to this system, how you going to get around? See that? How you going to be able to survive, all right, in this system if you don't take what this system required to have to survive in it? You see the difference? So you're going to need Yahweh Shema Shai. All right? Those that depend on the Lord is going to be straight. You know? This is the time that we coming into. Let's see if they talking about this shit now.
It's going to stimulate demand for U.S. Treasuries. Higher demand means it's going to be lower price, lower rates then, which will actually facilitate the financing of our debt that we're trying to bring under control right now, and it will make it cheaper for Americans to borrow. So all of this has a very positive impact. President Trump sees it. He can't wait for me to get this legislation to his desk, and I'm very optimistic we'll have navigated the House this week, and we'll see it signed on Friday.
I see. I get it now. Stablecoin is different from, like you said, the Bitcoin. So stablecoin is essentially a dollar bill without the physical dollar bill, essentially.
Correct.
I mean, that's just putting it at the simplest form for me.
You got it.
I appreciate it.
You got it. Exactly. But it's secure because it's backed up by treasuries.
Gotcha.
And that's the important thing as well.
Now, how will that if it gets passed, Trump signs it, what does that mean for someone listening right now who's maybe he's in his truck and he's saying, how does this help me right now? What does this do for me?
What it will mean is any transaction that involves dollars can move onto the blockchain immediately. Gotcha. And as that happens, transaction costs come down significantly, and our hope is that transaction cost reduction gets passed on. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be an inherently deflationary move when it comes to our payment system that right now has trillions of dollars tied up in it that are sitting there 5 to 10 days waiting to clear.
Yeah.
And so it takes out risk. You think about counterparty risk, meaning if someone said they're going to pay you, but it takes you 5 to 10 days to get that payment, what happens if they went bankrupt in the meantime? That's not good. That goes away. If you're doing an overseas transaction, let's say you did a transaction with the euro versus the dollar. What happens if the currency fluctuates in the meantime? That's risk that you don't have to bear when it happens almost instantaneously. So there are a lot of benefits here. I think a lot of efficiencies here. And again, by moving into the 21st century, we're going to make certain that all of these crypto technologies thrive and flourish here in America. It's an important signal to send to the marketplace because under the Biden administration, they basically waged war on digital currencies. Elizabeth Warren, opponent to me in getting this passed out of the U.S. Senate. You ask yourself, why is Elizabeth Warren so against this? It's because it's decentralized, meaning it's not going to be issued by the central bank. It's not going to be controlled by the federal government the way the digital yuan is in China. What she would like to see is a centrally controlled digital currency where every one of our transactions, Ditch and Tim, can be monitored. You think about choke point 1, choke point 2.0. What could go wrong if the federal government, particularly controlled by politicians and along the lanes of Elizabeth Warren and some of the Biden administration folks, what if they had control or had the visibility in our transactions? They could shut them down if they decided, for example, Ditch, you drove a little bit too far last week and your emissions are a little bit higher than what we want to see. So maybe we're going to have to constrain your ability to purchase fuel.
That what he wants.
My son, the captain of his shotgun team in school, shoots a few too many boxes of shells and wants to go back to the store and they won't allow him to buy the shells. That's the type of thing that I think Americans deeply want to avoid, and we're going to prevent this from ever happening by establishing this decentralized stablecoin.
See?
Senator, you used the term blockchain a couple of times in an elevator speech. Can you tell us what blockchain is? It seems like that's some sort of repeated verification of authenticity of a transaction.
It absolutely, you can verify the authenticity, and the blockchain allows you, it's a chain, so you can see every point that a given piece of currency or a given transaction has moved along the way. When I was ambassador to Japan, there was a $500 million heist from a wallet shop that had Bitcoin and other types of cryptocurrency in it. Everybody's quite upset about that. I was quite upset about that because we were fighting tooth and nail to keep the North Koreans from getting their hands on any sort of currency. And our speculation was that it was probably a state actor, the highest probability being North Koreans, if not them, Chinese, Russia, or Iranians. When this started to unfold, though, what happened was those digital dollars, we had to come back to the traditional banking system. We could see it, we could track it, we could monitor it, and people got arrested as a result of it. What that currency is just the absolute speed and efficiency of it. And that again creates much greater security and a much greater confidence in being able to transact and know that that's happening instantaneously as opposed to waiting for days, if not longer.
That point right there, you sold me because when I go buy something, the retailer immediately debits my account. But if I take it back, there's still some retailers, some of the larger ones will do it immediately, but the money doesn't go right back into your account. It's like, well, it depends on your bank. It'll take 3 to 5 business days for that money to show up. I'm like, man, you took it out of my account immediately. Why can't you put it right back in there? And it's because the middleman, the banks, well, some banks don't operate as efficiently and quickly.
Right.
A couple of quick things, just real quick, and we'll let you go. I know we've gone long, but we have a lot of listeners on our message board here who's really dialed into what you're talking about. One message says, decentralized sounds good to me. His entire explanation sounds good on its face as long as we retain physical cash as an option.
Oh, of course. Nobody's saying to get rid of cash.
Right.
The only person that might be engaged in that sort of discussion would be my colleague from across the aisle, Elizabeth Warren. We had a very interesting debate in the Senate Banking Committee where I tried to compare cash to digital currency, and she just didn't seem to want to hear any part of it. I think in some people's minds, look at the Chinese Communist Party. They want to move everything onto their digital platform that they can monitor, that they can control. This is the last thing we want to see here in America. So I think there's certainly a role for cash, but this digital currency allows for transactions and payments in a much quicker and more modern scenario that I think benefits all of us.
Another question, is the dollar still going to be the international standard with digital currency moving as as fast as it is? I'm assuming yes, there's no threat of...
This actually absolutely ensures it. And had we not, let's say that we did not allow this sort of stablecoin technology to thrive here in America, then people would opt for the, why that's what I promulgate right now. So this ensures that the digital dollar, a decentralized digital dollar, becomes the dominant force in markets around the world. So it's actually step reserve capacity as opposed to diminish it, which would have been the alternative had the world moved in the direction of only allowing a central bank currency. It would not pass here, and the Senate would not pass that.
And lastly, Mike asks, it's still going to, will there still be a 3% fee for moving ones and zeros? I'm not exactly sure what.
Is that just a transaction fee? I don't get that.
Well, it certainly makes sense that those fees would come down, because if you think about it, the old system, again, a clunky system built 70s and 80s that requires a lot of maintenance, a lot of work. You think about the security that's necessary in those systems. If you use the blockchain, it happens instantaneously. A lot of the risk comes out of the system. A lot of the currency risk, a lot of the counterparty risk comes out of the system, and you can track it as we just described. You know where it's been, and so it makes it much more hard and much more difficult, I should say, to pilfer or to be pirated that way.
All right, Senator Haggerty, thanks for spending a little extra time with us this morning on this.
Yeah, that's heavy there. That's heavy. That's heavy there. Because that's fulfilling prophecy. All right, because how else, the device going to happen if they don't bring in a digital system? See? So Revelation 13 and 16, when it comes down to that mark, all right, it is the MOTB. All right, it is that device that you're going to only be able to buy and sell with. All right, because they're going to do away with cash. We just heard it. All right, and they're monetize, right? It's going to monitor mean an instrument or a device. All right, that device is going to be used for observing a continuous record, process, or quality. You see, that's why we stress this to you. All right, that you take that device. All right, you're going to be held accountable, and you're going to receive the judgment, the wrath of the Lord, man. All right? So, I got to, go take my ass on and work. So, Lord willing, y'all brothers and sisters edified. Next time, shalom, Baba Baba, Raka, may the Lord team bless y'all more. All right?